AITA for leaving my sister and her husband on the side of the road.
I come from a very sex-positive household. My parents taught my sister and I about sex, sexuality, and their non-vanilla lifestyle from a young age. They were very affectionate and touchy with each other in public and didn't, and still don't, seem to care about others' opinions. They lived a very non-conventional lifestyle and weren't afraid to flaunt it. On one hand, my parents never treated sex as a shameful subject, therefore, I received a very comprehensive, inclusive, form of sex education. On the other hand, I think I was introduced to many topics at a very young age. In many ways, my sister, Angie, turned out like my parents. She proclaims that she's sex-positive, and has no qualms with openly discussing sex in great detail at every opportunity.
She believes that if a person is uncomfortable, they must be a conservative virgin/prude who clearly hates all forms of self-expression. Her words. My wife, Zara, isn't a huge fan of PDA. Other than hand-holding or occasional kisses on the cheek, she isn't comfortable with doing much in public. We're also not the type of people to discuss our sex life with people, much less family. Angie doesn't like Zara. She believes that Zara is too conservative/prudish for our family. She often makes fun of Zara for looking embarrassed when she's discussing, in excruciating detail, about sex. Zara barely says anything, but Angie still manages to make fun of her. I don't speak to Angie much.
Recently, Zara's brother passed away. Angie's husband, Bill, knew his partner and wanted to pass on his condolences. Zara, Angie, Bill, and I all wanted to attend his wake. Instead of taking separate cars, Angie suggested that we all go together. To be honest, I was not a huge fan of this idea. It was a 2-hour drive from where we live to our destination. Also, we were planning on leaving very early so that we could help set up and were planning to leave late. We still managed to do it. At first, everything was alright. Understandably, no one was speaking in the car and it was very quiet in the car. Most people were keeping to themselves or sleeping.
Midway through the drive, Angie and Bill start making out in the backseat of our car. When I say making out, I mean, full-on, making out. They were pushing up against the car door and making all sorts of noises. Zara and I were extremely uncomfortable. I pulled over and started yelling at Angie. I told them that I was disgusted by their behavior and that they were acting like horny little teenagers. Angie said that they were grieving. I yelled at them to get out of my car. At first, they were protesting, but I was so angry and so tired of them already. I told them to find their way home by themselves.
My parents think that I went too far with them and that Zara needs to loosen up in order to be a part of this family. Obviously, Angie and Bill are still extremely pissed. NTA. Your sister and Bill's behavior was highly inappropriate. There is no way that falls under the definition of sex positive. That's just weird. I wonder if they behave like that with other people or if it was just meant to push your wife's buttons. NTA. This was a pattern of behavior that they knew bothered Zara, and they still couldn't restrain themselves for a couple hours to make her comfortable. NTA. There is a difference between being sex positive and forcing people into your sex life. They did the second. Zara is perfectly fine the way she is. Tell them to back off. NTA. Sex positive means valuing consent, communication and being free to make informed choices about your body, without feeling judgment or shame. Nothing about what your sister is doing is sex positive. Continuing to discuss your sex life to someone in great detail, when they have expressed this makes them uncomfortable is not the one. Making out in a car with other people there who are clearly not consenting to that is odd. Sounds like someone needs to go and rewatch. Or watch Tea and Consent. NTA. Angie said that they were grieving. You know how they say, everyone grieves in their own way. Quote, well this way, it turns out, is incorrect.
NTA. They may be sex positive but not consent positive.
NTA. Anyone who is sex positive knows about consent, and if she's not getting consent to involve you in her exhibitionism, then she's being a sex negative and gets to walk home. Time for Angie to have a lecture on consent. NTA. Wait, your wife's brother died, and her in-laws $see king in her car on the way to his funeral is an expression of their grief. Honey, I have no words. Because I'd never deal with these idiots again. I wouldn't stop you from seeing your family. But they obviously don't care about your wife. NTA. And also, for being so sex positive, they should also understand that consent is super important. I am not saying that PDA is an issue. But aggressive makeout sessions while locked in a car is not something everyone wants to be around. And TBH, I would not consent to that while locked in a car for 2 hours on top of grieving. Just no. On top of they know it makes your wife uncomfortable. NTA. Angie and her husband's behavior is very inappropriate, and from what you describe, Angie in particular seems to have a very nebulous concept of how boundaries work if she repeatedly talks about stuff that she knows makes someone uncomfortable. Wait, what the hell did I just read? Did you just say your wife's brother died and your sister and Bill decided to basically pre-sex in your car while you and your wife were in it on a 2-hour drive to your wife's brother's wake? And then tried to say they were sexing through their grief? In front of you? What? NTA. NTA. Hopefully you left them somewhere where they could easily Uber, Lyft, but I'd want them out of my car. 2. Angie seems like she uses sex positive as a synonym for disregarding basic social norms and boundaries. It's manipulative. You did not consent to being part of their sexual activities. NTA. I'm sex positive, and I still don't want to talk about sex in depth with family and friends. I can be sex positive and still like my privacy. I also don't want to be subjected to other people's sex lives. You don't consent to your sister making sex moans in your ear, and it doesn't make you a prude to not want that. ETA. People are saying that you're ta if you didn't warn them first. But also, this is not the first time you've had this conversation with her, if I'm reading this right. She already knows that this is a boundary. NTA. They were putting on a public display that pulled you into their kink. That is a violation of consent and a power play on their part, under the guise of sex positive. And their actions were just tacky for the situation. NTA. They crossed a line and they know it. No one is so dense that they think it's okay to get hot and steamy with other people in the car. NTA. Active consent is a big thing in sex positivity. You were in an enclosed, limited space and did not consent to be a part of or an observer to their makeout session. NTA. Being sex positive is about respect for people's needs. Shaming people with different needs and lower sex drives isn't sex positive, it's stupid. I'm positive about my garden and I don't throw carrots at people's heads to make my point. Being sex positive also involves respecting consent. You did not consent to witnessing and being in that close of a proximity to their foreplay. NTA. NTA. Honestly, sounds like they wanted to carpool to 1. Get it on, and 2. Push your wife's clear boundaries. You did the right thing. It was very disrespectful of them to push boundaries on your wife, who out of the 4 of you has suffered the greatest loss. You sister needs some manners, etiquette classes. PDA is fine, but not on the way to a funeral in the backseat of a car that the sibling or other close family member to the deceased is in. Stop doing your sister favors. She's just taking advantage of you and clearly does not respect your or your wife. Angie doesn't like Zara. She believes that Zara is too conservative, prudish, for our family. My parents think that I went too far with them and that Zara needs to loosen up in order to be a part of this family. This comes off like they're trying to have a big ol' family orgy, which is nauseating to say the least. Anyways, there's being sex positive, which is cool. And then there's dry humping each other in the backseat of your brother's car on the way to a wake, while the deceased sister is in the passenger seat. Time and place. They can be sex positive without being gross like that. And they can be sex positive without sex being their entire lives and basically the only thing they talk about. NTA.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AITAAngie is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.